Welcome to hell, comrades. You ready to rip and tear your way out to avenge Daisy, apparently? Showing again my ignorance of the lore. Before recording, Matt is explaining the lore of Doom 2 that set Doom Guy on the path to being the Doom Slayer, avenging his slain pet rabbit Daisy. Which, again, showing that I'm not a true gamer. Not a true gamer. Even though I've played some Doom 2, probably, like, 25 years ago.
Hey man, when you get sent to Mars because you didn't follow orders about shooting on innocent civilians, you kill a bunch of demons, and then you come home and there are demons there and they've killed your beloved pet rabbit, what the fuck are you gonna do? Other than spend thousands of years in hell making it so that they fear you more than you will ever fear them.
I did love playing 2016, getting all the audio files of just like the demon princes just shitting themselves over Doom Guy. So funny, so good. But yeah, if any, not to like immediately age myself here, but if any like, you know, quick-witted math users doing the thing about my 25 years ago thing, I'm not that old.
You would have been
but
7.
The Doom games were like some of my first games, and it's like my truly great parenting on my dad's part. My like most formative gamer memories are like my dad sneaking us away either at the home PC or when my sister and I would like go to the office after school, his office after school, and playing Doom and Doom 2. I don't think we played Doom 3.
3 didn't come out until like that was an Xbox 360 game.
So at that point he was well
and
past.
Doom 3 was notably trying to like tie into or like be more like the movie.
And what's so funny is that, again, that being such a formative experience for my gaming, I am not a FPS enjoyer whatsoever. But my experience totally disproves like the controversy about it, where it's like everybody's like Doom was this, you know, dark and gritty and satanic and scary game, and to me it's so bright and colorful and whimsical. Even like to me, I'm filled with feelings of joy and nostalgia, and it's just so it's just, I think it's largely because of the era of its technology, right, where the gore and all that stuff is not realistic. We've had that conversation with stuff like Mortal Kombat, right? With like how silly that stuff is. Like that's not realistic. Even by that era's standard, I don't feel like that's realistic.
Does it look like Mike is streaming from hell to anyone else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mike has been banished to the nether realm.
Just wanted to make sure it wasn't something new added to the symptoms of my computer.
No,
I don't think so.
I'm at 84% uploading, so we ain't doing good.
We'll see if the actual final video version of the podcast will show this to our intrepid listeners.
I mean, it's straight up like it's classic. We're talking about Doom here because that's like 240p video quality.
That's crisp and clean edges.
I can count every pixel lining out the side of his face.
We're going down at 78.
For reasons that I won't get into now, like I didn't really do my full due diligence for this episode of the podcast.
It's a good thing I did.
I'm solely relying upon my past experiences, right, which are so clouded by the haze of memory that I was like looking at doing a little bit of research, and I like pulled some notes on like the original production of Doom, the first game, because we're talking about just kind of the franchise as a whole. So I want to, obviously this is in anticipation of Doom the Dark Ages, which we are not sponsored. This is not an ad. I don't have any opinions about that game coming out.
10 out of 10, best game to be released in years. Definitely worth an $80 price tag if you're gonna wait to buy it.
I think Mike actually died.
Yeah, I think so. He's gone.
Demons got him.
We have.
Do you think he's gonna come back like whatever her name was, the Pierce woman?
Olivia Pierce.
Pierce.
We have a roulette wheel that seems to be on recording this podcast on who's gonna crash at what time in the middle of recording.
Hey, mine was before.
Yeah, we got yours out of the way.
Yeah, it's because you logged on first this time, so you were ahead of the
I would have been on earlier, but I've been a ghost pill.
Hell yeah.
That's so, like, again, I didn't want, we're not supposed to be talking
we're not even talking about.
on the podcast, but I just wanted at some point I wanted to ask you how you were enjoying it so far.
According to the PlayStation tracker, I'm already 22% through the story.
Okay, that doesn't totally surprise me. And like I said, this will be a super easy platinum for you.
Yeah, I'm going for all of the trophies, all 77. Icky Island, Legends.
Yeah, are the legends held separately?
Yes, they're all broken out into their own. It's tied in, though, because this was talking about, I was playing Doom Eternal to prepare for this episode, and then Friday night, I booted my PlayStation up and stared at the Doom Eternal logo for like 15 minutes. And then I can
just picture Matt just like this, just in deep thought, in deep retrospective thought.
I pulled up a like walkthrough video for the next level I was on, and it said like 56 minutes, and I just fucking hit the eject button and popped the disc straight out.
And like for that type of video, that's a very streamlined playthrough of that. You know, that's like not going for all secrets and all that. That's a non-speed run. Those videos are some of the most efficient playthroughs. So you're looking at least 90 minutes.
No, we'll get to there. I have opinions on the difference between 2016 and Eternal that apparently put me on the wrong side of the Doom fandom if you go by their online.
Interesting. Yeah, so in preparation for this episode, I did play 2016, but then hearing Matt's takes on Eternal, I was just like, and we'll get to why I was like so hesitant to begin with, because the slight thing I'll say now is that I found 2016 to be an enjoyable enough experience. Like there was nothing about it that I would say was bad, and nothing that was like,
I actually go beyond
mechanics
your opinion
design.
here. I think 2016 is like an objectively good game.
Yeah, no,
like it hits the perfect balance on, like, it's a mission-based structure, but it never feels disconnected. Like, it feels like you're progressing through from area to area to hell to area. Atmosphere is really high quality in 2016. It definitely gives you that, like, abandoned space station, Mars colony vibe.
And so that was the big thing for me, is that the atmosphere, while very effective, was not an atmosphere I enjoyed. That's it. It accomplishes what it wants to do and does it very well. It's just like, it was just a bad vibes game for me. It was just like I never found myself wanting to go back and play it. It was a chore in that sense, even though it only took me like 8 hours to beat it. And
I also just felt like the level layouts were really good in 2016. Like, they do a good job of progressing you through visually funneling you towards your objective without needing to do like, here's red paint to direct you down to your next path, or you don't really need to sit there and keep hitting like an icon to tell you like, okay, no, I'm going down this hallway and then I'm going down this hallway. Like, the map does a good job of directing you around.
I'm not surprised you had that takeaway, Ben, because to your point, this is not in your gaming wheelhouse.
But I mean, generally it wouldn't be mine.
But you kind of like the bullet hells, like you play bullet hell style, like
which makes me think you'll really like Doom: The Dark Ages, because it seems to really have a lot of bullet hell inspiration.
It's funny because what I've seen there shows it a lot more in like the Returnal style of like bullet spreads that you have to dodge through and like certain ones that you have to hit to get the sun window. Whereas the thing that Eternal does really well is Eternal has like super crisp movement. Like, the movement of Eternal is insane in comparison to 2016. Dashing around, double jumping from the get-go. Like, you definitely have so much more control over the arena as you're moving around. But because you have so much more control over the arena, they also way more fill what you have to get through and around with fodder enemies and enemies that can shoot you from way farther, and people who will close the gap on you now because you can dodge.
Okay, well, I want to rein it back in quickly because I want to go somewhat systematically. Not really, because I don't have opinions on every single game, but it's more like, let's take us back to the beginning. What is everybody else's experience with Doom as a franchise? What was the first time you played it or heard of it? Or
wasn't Doom the inspiration for Grandma's Boy?
It was it was part of it. I thought, no, it was, isn't it Diablo? I feel like Diablo's more.
I don't remember
the game that he's building is one thing. The character looks like Spawn.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you're right about that.
But what I was thinking was, I don't remember the character's name, the guy with the trench coat, sit on my face guy.
JP.
Yeah, I thought he was kind of modeled to be the John Romero because the marketing around John Romero initially, I think it was, what was his, because he had a game that took forever to come out that was like John Romero's going to like, no.
Quake?
This was outside of it. This was after he left.
Yeah, I think it was like Katana.
Daikatana?
Yeah, that one. Where it was basically marketed around like the mystique of John Romero and like what he meant as a developer and like he was going to make you cry or something like that.
And then it ended up being a commercial and critical failure.
Yeah. The original Doom games had a sort of spin-off series by id regarding, I think they were called Hexen, where they were more spellcasting based than machine gun based.
All right, so my experience with Doom, definitely, it was always like in my mind as kind of one of those classic industry load-bearing titles, in my opinion. Like it kind of is one of the first major games, so I had that kind of context, but
There's no way your parents would have let you play Doom.
No, I don't think I played any Doom, honestly, until I bought it for my Switch as like the second game I bought for Switch, which was
you bought 2016 on Switch.
I did, and it honestly played really well on Switch. It was an enjoyable experience. I ended up playing some of it on the PS5 just to kind of compare my experiences, and I didn't feel like I lost really all that much outside of obvious visual fidelity to some extent. But I will say that I went back and also played a little bit of all of the Dooms that are available, which is essentially the classic Doom
2, games. Doom 3, and Doom 64, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
You can get them all in I think they're called like the Slayer bundle, which came with Doom 2016 as well.
Yep. And that actually, I have a couple comments there. One was, it is surprising to me for how much name brand recognition, how quickly this series kind of petered out. There's not, for how historic and long-standing of a
I mean, Doom IP. And Doom 2 came out pretty quick, 2. Then you got Doom 64, which was basically porting Doom 1 with some theoretical quality of life improvements to the Nintendo 64, a fairly long hiatus to Doom 3, and then an even longer hiatus to 2016, and that was mostly because they scrapped what was originally codified by the community as Call of Doom, which was Doom 4.
Yeah.
Followed more of a Call of Duty style, like regenerating health and slower, less boomer shooter, more Call of Duty style military gunplay.
They tried to propagandize the Doomslayer. Fuck at it.
The Rock
audience rejected it.
They said the Pentagon tried to get their grubby little fingers into Doom.
Who can forget Dwayne The Rock Johnson saying "Semper Fi, motherfucker"?
Fi, motherfucker. So my experience is pretty recent, and I had two additional thoughts as I played through some of the early Dooms on my PS5, which was that I don't know that I would have been a gamer in the 90s. I don't know if I'm just a little bitch now.
Computer games of the 90s, they were very esoteric.
Oh my God, dude! And I can't tell what shit.
That's coming from someone who loves his esoteric 90s games. The best thing about them nowadays is that you can play them in ways that have like a rewind function. Or
what are you talking about? We were all gamers in the 90s. We were playing fucking Rita Rabbit. And
that shit slaps. I'm on the Rita Rabbit train.
I don't know
that
I'm on the Dream train. Don't be hating on my boy Freddy.
Monkey Island goes hard. You know, it's a certain type of game, right?
Yeah. 100%. And then my other observation was the Doom guy on Doom 1 is dripping sex appeal. He's got his midriff out. He's got his belly showing. He's got a little thigh action going on. Like I don't know if he's a gay icon, but he should be.
Doom guy number 1 was just a precursor for the 2020 male experience of crop tops and short shorts.
Exactly.
Except he was beefcaked up. I mean,
yeah.
My favorite Doom lore thing is that Doom 2016 was initially supposed to be just a reboot of the series.
It is in a lot of ways.
And then Doom Eternal came out, and they basically like canonized it as a far off sequel through multiverse theory.
Yeah, they did some weird shit with that, but like it is essentially
A
the
reboot
same
of Doom.
plot, the same plot as Doom
that's-
1.
They do it with Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, where they both mirror in ways Doom 1 and Doom 2. And that even goes down to the final bosses being the Spider Mastermind and the
Spider
Icon
Mastermind.
of Sin.
Yeah. Dude, Spider Mastermind in 2016
Probably the easiest boss in that game.
The fucking joke. That was like my one
Trust
complaint
me,
about.
If you
about
think the
2016.
Doom 2016 bosses were easy, the Doom Eternal bosses are like a dial turn to like 12 on difficulty. Just there's mobs in the arenas. The arenas aren't just flat; they're multi-layered. You remember I think they're the Hellguard, where you fight them and there's one, then it becomes two. That's essentially every fucking boss fight in Doom Eternal. You fight one guy, then you fight two of them. You fight the Marauder, and he is just you with an axe.
Yeah, I had seen that you get to the point where you fight a copy of yourself, which is pretty cool.
There's also the controversial Eternal DLC 2, where the final boss is Satan himself, and he takes the form of the most dreaded being in the universe, you. But instead of fighting you with guns in like a Quake-style arena, he wears a Warhammer 40k mech suit and fights you with a beam sword.
Which I'm pretty sure there are going to be levels in Dark Ages where you pilot a mech suit of some kind. There's like a dragon thing, which apparently I've read is not very fun. That's one of the things I've heard is like is the one thing from previews that they have said is not executed well. But then, other bits where you're in a big mech suit.
I should clarify that it's a small mech suit. It's not a like Gundam style. We're talking Space Marine armor.
The one in Dark Ages is supposed to be like a big
full on Gundam
like
to fight Titans. He's alive.
Is he though? Let's see.
Hell.
Nope.
We are not able to display this camera and mic.
And Mike. He's here in spirit.
Yeah.
We'll continue on. I was going to ask him. Oh, he's come back at the right time. Let's turn to him. What was his experience?
Mike, take it away.
Matt, did you say like which was like the first Doom game you played?
So the first Doom game I played was Doom 64. And it was one of those like hush hush. You'd go over to, I won't name drop the neighbor because he's dead now, and that feels weird. You'd go over to the neighbor's house with a bunch of the neighborhood kids, and you would go play Doom 64 on his Nintendo and just like hide it from all of the neighborhood parents that you weren't weren't playing outside like you were supposed to be, and B weren't playing something that they definitely wouldn't let us play. Which I think it was rated M at the time. Like a rated M game in the 90s might as well be like...
It's D17. They show full hog.
Yeah. And then in college, we bought a Nintendo 64 from a thrift shop. And then me and my roommate replayed through Doom 64 as one of the things we did. Oh? Maybe?
Oh.
No. Not really.
It was clear for a second, and then...
Hey, can you hear me?
Nope, not really.
I mean, your video is dog shit, but you're coming through okay.
Am I?
Seem to hear you.
I don't know. Maybe he's on a minute delay.
I was going to say, we
Sounds
don't
like
know
I'm on a
necessarily
delay.
what he's responding to.
He's definitely on a delay.
Seems to be a delay.
Okay. I played a little bit of Doom 1 and 2, Steam Deck wise, just because, classic games run great on Steam Deck. But then, I played 2016 and build up for this and hated it until I didn't, and then I liked it. And I think the turning point in 2016 for me was when you get beyond just having the pistol, the combat shotgun, and the assault rifle, once you get a little more weapon variety. And then it's funny because you throw all that away once you get the super shotgun, and you never go back to weapon variety ever again.
Yeah, for me it was a super shotgun, the Gauss cannon,
Yes.
and maybe dabbling here and there with the fully upgraded chain gun or the rocket launcher.
The problem I always ran
my
into with the
ammo
rocket
stores
launcher
were.
was I ended up hurting myself more than anything else.
I only used those on big enemies, so they were relatively far away from me when I was using it.
No,
And you can
I use
eventually
the
upgrade to
super
where you
shotgun
take
at
less
range
damage.
to make sure I'm getting minimal usage out of it. But that's actually the thing that Doom Eternal flips around in the sense that there's so little ammo storage and ammo is so much less abundant. It's like trying to force your hand to use every weapon in your arsenal far more. And And they got rid of the Gauss cannon and replaced it with a shitty, I think it's called like the ballista, and it just doesn't feel nearly as good.
Yeah. Losing the Gauss cannon was a big hit to me. I'm a fan of that weapon.
The only thing that Eternal has like leaps and bounds over 2016 is the super shotgun has a grappling hook. And when you fully upgrade it, it's a flaming grappling hook, and you can use that for additional mobility, which is just kind of like, imagine seeing the nightmare of your dreams, the Doomslayer, impaling your chest with a flaming grappling hook, launching towards you with a fucking shotgun.
12 gauge to the face.
Imagine seeing this man bouncing through the air like a fucking ballerina, double jumping, double dashing, whipping around with his grappling hook.
Is it the case in Eternal that certain enemies are either weak or can only be killed by certain weapon type?
It's not can only be killed by certain weapon types. It's are weak to the weapon type. So like cacodemons, if you launch a grenade or use the super shotguns or the regular shotgun stick your grenade, you launch it into their mouth, it automatically puts them into glory kill. And you get a very satisfying gulping sound as they swallow your grenade. And then there's like enemies have weak points. So like the cyber demons, if you shoot off their arm cannons, they're just kind of big, useless, like stage fodder.
Does the chainsaw make a return?
The chainsaw is like the first thing you unlock in the game.
Yeah.
Is it still? Is it?
Yes.
Yes.
But it regenerates one fuel tank, which is, I think, you know, I don't know if we want to fully dive into our discussions of like the two new games, but it does it better in my opinion with the chainsaw.
Okay. I guess so we can kind of get into that because our experiences are with the original games are either so long ago or kind of non-existent. I will maybe want to come back at the end of the discussion and talk about like, you know, the franchise's overall impact and what we think its legacy is. But just a few things that like I pulled out of looking into the kind of production of the first game. And none of this is systematic in any way. These are just things that interested me. So one thing that was cool to learn that it's like makes a certain amount of sense because it's like almost every single game of this era, no matter its genre or type or whatever, had inspiration from Dungeons and Dragons. That the original game was inspired from a D&D campaign that they were running that was about fighting demons with technology. And they just, you know, started to adapt it. They made like their Doom Bible that had like different kind of story treatments that eventually got abandoned, and that was like a source of conflict amongst its original creators. I don't remember exactly a full list of the development team, but it was a pretty small team. So like id had already had success from Wolfenstein prior to Doom, and they wanted to move to a more sci-fi setting, and that was another thing that inspired them to move this out. But it's, from my understanding, it was still a pretty small team that was largely the founders and then maybe some new people here and there. But then one of those developers, I think they was the lead designer, was like constantly getting basically shafted, and it was just like that all his ideas were just being rejected.
Well, he was the Ringo of the group.
But then there was drama, and like, you know, basically he was forced out, and they claimed he was like, you know, hard to work with and a diva type of shit. But then, you know,
this is foreshadowing to Disco Elysium.
Except, yeah, they're not communists; they're all libertarians.
In U.S. politics, same thing.
Kinda, yeah. Not totally far off. All, yeah, kind of, you know, megalomaniacal, you know, idiots in a lot of ways, which is kind of unfair to the Disco Elysium things. They're artistes. They're mercurial. Whereas, you know, these are sovereign citizen ass motherfuckers. But I got to give them some credit. They do have like decently good politics. I think they are libertarian, but I'm pretty sure they're left leaning libertarians. Because don't forget, they make their money off of making games killing Nazis, you know. So, you know, their priorities, particularly in today's day and age.
I was about to say, do you think if Wolfenstein was a new franchise that came out today, it would be like boycotted by?
You'd have to sympathize with they have to give their Nazi villain some sympathetic characteristics.
I was just going to say it would be outright boycotted by a subsect of gamers.
It's woke. It's woke to kill Nazis.
Led by Asmongold.
I didn't know this shit was political. What are they doing putting politics into my Wolfenstein game?
Are they already mad at, I think it was like Wolfenstein New Blood because it's a female main character?
I think they were, yeah.
Yeah, they definitely were.
But which was the bad one? Which was the bad game, the live service one? Is that Young Blood? What's it called?
I don't play Wolfenstein games.
Me neither.
There was Wolfenstein New Colossus, and yeah, it's something like that. Wolfenstein
Youngblood. It is Youngblood. And it was this live service one, and people hated it. Yes. So then, a through line through that whole kind of drama was this disagreement over the significance of story in these games. And one of the founders, John Cormack, had this line that I wanted to quote that again proves to me like what it's like the meme, I know what kind of man you are. Where he said, so not only did he like not like the story that the other guy was proposing, but he dismissed the idea of having story at all, saying story in a game is like a story in a porn movie. It's expected to be there, but it's not that important.
Okay, first off, I'll have you know that the best porn movies come with an enticing story that draws you in.
Gripping. Great acting.
You think your mom being stuck in a laundry machine is easy to come up with? That takes years of thought.
I'm supposed to believe that she is a teacher and that she is holding this 45-year-old man posing as an 18-year-old student.
Wow. I mean...
Can't break your immersion, dog, or else the whole fantasy slips away.
It's interesting because part of me thinks in that time and place, as far as video games go, he's not entirely wrong. Like, they're more tech demos than anything else.
He's not unique. He's not unique in that perspective. Like, there are plenty of developers and studios in that era that are like, we're not entertainment companies, we're tech companies, and we act like it for the worse. I mean, well, it's not that entertainment companies are pretty good either. They're also doing fucked up shit. Lots of exploitation going on in both sectors.
Yeah, but differences in how you exploit your talent.
And to me, I was like thinking like, wait, did the original Doom game even have a story? Because again, my whole perception of it is colored by, again, like I was not playing through it as a whole thing, right? It would just be playing individual levels here and there with my dad with no sense of continuity or
pretty sure
plot or whatever.
Pretty sure there's no legitimate story to Doom 1 or 2 outside of like
the guidebooks.
Yeah.
Is where
it's actually one of the controversial aspects of 2016 that people didn't like was that 2016 had quote unquote unskippable cutscenes that I have to sit here and watch. I read a Reddit post.
Let's be real. Those were loading screens more than anything.
Yeah. I read a Reddit post about someone complaining about the 2-minute unskippable cutscene of Sam Hayden talking to you about Argent Energy.
Is that the one where the one that I could maybe get behind is when you're in his office?
No, it's the one where he gives you your first Argent upgrade.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there, like, my immediate reaction was just like, holy TikTok brain. Like, sit still for 2 minutes and listen to the man speak.
Here's me, the enlightened Yakuza player, who will sit through a 2-hour cutscene at the beginning of the game with maybe 5-second interstices of walking around.
Me playing Xenoblade, knowing that the Xenoblade games combined are like 64 hours of cutscenes.
Oh my God.
Beautiful culture.
No, the Doom Eternal, quote unquote, improves on this aspect by letting you skip all cutscenes.
And I seriously doubt you miss anything.
How dare you, sir?
It's not like the stories are like that gripping.
Okay, first off, there are 3 Hell Priests. Their names are...
No, one of the major legacy outlets that still exists, because several of them just got basically bought out and liquidated. I think it was Polygon just got liquidated, basically. RIP to those guys. Okay, looks like Mike has officially thrown in the towel. Crap, that completely just threw me off track.
Polygon.
So I was like, it was one of these videos that was like, here's a story recap before Doom the Dark Ages. Here, how they all tie together. Absolute drivel. Absolute nonsense drivel. You know, like, it's just like, why do you care? I'm at the point where it's like, why do you care? If you're not even going to put in the effort, basically. I will say, some of the things like the animations, the voice acting in those cutscenes in 2016 were good. I liked the voice actor who played Samuel Hayden, Robot Dr. Man.
spoiler alert, Robot Doctor Man is the soul reincarnated of a maker, Seymour Makur.
I mean, you could tell something weird's going on with him.
Also spoilers, Vega is the reincarnation of God.
Okay.
That's right. They had God running a mining facility.
God is dead and Doom Guy killed him.
Nope, Doom Guy backs up his memory so that he can be your hub over voice.
No, it's more just the idea if Vega is the reincarnation of God, it's that implies that God died at some point. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah,
but
I
he
watched
was reincarnated into a fucking supercomputer. What the fuck?
Yeah, I watched the hour-long video essay on all of the Doom lore.
But dude, this was absolute fucking dribble. It's just
how dare you, sir?
Doomslayer did this and Doomslayer did that, and he killed all the demons.
He was trained by the Night Sentinels.
He killed all the demons and went back to hell, and he was probably more of a factor of this video being like 8 minutes, condensing the lore into 8 minutes.
Yeah, you gotta watch.
That's come on.
You gotta watch the hour-long video essay that talks about his training with the Night Sentinels and how the demons came to Argent Denor, which wasn't part of Hell originally, to stop him before his training was complete. And then he was blessed by God himself to become a holy smite weapon.
That entire 15 seconds you just did could have come from like a Conor O'Malley.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. It's drivel, but taken totally seriously.
And then they sealed him away in a casket until he would be needed again.
This is just making me think of how come Doom Guy hasn't been kind of claimed as like a inspirational figure for that ilk of person, say like a Punisher.
Yes. Why isn't he?
Here's a fun fact for you. Did you know that he is the grandson of the Wolfenstein main character?
That I didn't know. I did not know that there was connective tissue between them.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yep. He's the grandson of the Wolfenstein main character and the son of Captain Keen.
Which is like one of their other games. Like that's like that was their other kind of major game. I think they did like Captain Keen, Wolfenstein, and then Doom. Okay, I had a couple other things here. This one was cool that like a lot of the enemies were in their coding, or not their coding, their
Sprites.
Yeah, were developed from hand sculpted models that were then put into like a stop motion animation that was
how
used.
A lot of the early video game animation kind.
It would be so that it's like almost kind of like rotoscoping in a way,
yeah.
But like
because remember that was the thing about early Mortal Kombat. Was that's how they did a lot of their fighting animations, were people in the booth and then rotoscoping over them.
Yeah. And like none of those people got paid.
No.
None of them.
Perfect.
I don't know the technical bits of that, but I just thought it was kind of cool. Like it would be cool to see if any of those like original sculptures have been like retained and
God no. Definitely
put in a museum of some kind. That would be cool. Then there's the whole marketing strategy of original Doom games, relying on the shareware, a method of distribution and marketing that we do not see anymore. That was absolutely of that era, but it's like it was such a cool concept of basically it's their version of like a free demo in a lot of sense. You're playing a somewhat restricted, incomplete version of the game. But so many people, that's just how they play the game. So original Doom was like released in episodes. And I think you could play the first 2 episodes fully through shareware. And it was just, you had to buy a commercial copy to get the 3rd chapter. And you just know like that's absolutely a reason why games of that era became so iconic and so widespread, is because people could play them at such a low barrier of entry, right? And we know that Doom can be run on a potato.
Especially at that point in time, given that so few people had access to a home computer in ways. Like home computers weren't really widespread until the early 2000s.
Yeah. That's a fair point. That's totally why it was like, yeah, at your dad's work office, though, is just
like having a home computer was essentially if your parents did work that required them to have one at home as well.
I think that's why we had one.
That's why I had one. And then I put viruses on it.
I didn't do that until the family laptop.
I put viruses on every family computer.
The only one that I nuked was the family laptop, and that was definitely from LimeWire.
Hey man, if Doom Guy was real, he'd be fighting the demons in the computer too.
He should be. What is he doing? There's no time to rest. Doom Guy rests for the weak.
He spent 1,000 years in hell without gaining any age because timey-wimey bullshit. I know none of you watched the death battle video I sent of Doom Guy versus Master Chief.
I feel like Doom Guy just smashes his head.
Yeah.
He slaughtered him. And the basic ruling was that Master Chief is like a trained soldier, but Doom Guy spent 1,000 years fighting demons
with his bare fucking hands.
There was a lot of controversy online because Halo fans were upset at the fact that Master Chief didn't just lose, but he got fully dismembered, like arms ripped off, head decapitated.
What do you expect? Come on.
Yeah. It doesn't even sound like a fair fight.
I mean,
getting his master cheeks clapped.
As someone who watched it, the fight was unfair the second that Master Chief went in with the laser sword and Doom Guy blocked it with just a knife.
What was the reasoning for that? That his knife coated with some type of interdimensional.
As someone who watches death battles, that was basically their way of saying that he's just so scaled higher that his base stuff is just kitted better because they didn't want him to pull out the Crucible yet because the Crucible is so much stronger.
That's the big sword, right?
Yeah. The Crucible with enough energy per swing to power the entire Earth for 8 months.
Do you use that actively in Eternal?
When you get it, yeah. It's a one-hit kill that drops armor, ammo, and health.
How is it restricted then? Is it on a super cooldown?
Yeah, you get 3 swipes, and then you have to find ammo for it, like the BFG.
Do you still have the BFG?
Yes. You use the BFG to blow a hole in the surface of Mars, because it's attached to they call it the BFG 10,000, and it's a giant space laser. But you also get the Unmaker, which shares ammo with the BFG, which is an absolute dogshit weapon.
It sounds like there's way too much going on in Eternal. Like, that was what I had read, is that, like, because there's so much going on, that there's too many things for a controller. So it's like
having jump and dash mapped to the back paddles is the
like
only way to make the platforming work on console.
And because that came out before the game came out before the Pro controllers, though, right?
Technically incorrect.
I wasn't sure about the Microsoft one.
PlayStation had an accessory at the time called the back button accessory for the DualShock 4, which you would slot in that gave you 2 back buttons.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. What? You always drop some like recent Sony shit that I'm just like, that happened in the last decade?
Yeah, the only reason I didn't buy it was because I knew that they were basically playtesting for a Pro controller.
I've completely become back paddle pilled. I don't know that I would have been able to play Expedition 33 like I did. Like I had, dodge and parry on the 2 buttons, because you have to be able to jump with the face button, a special parry on the trigger, and then dodge and just normally circle. And parry is like R1. So it's like, it was too many. You'd be juggling too much. So that way there are 4 distinct things you're doing, and they're now keyed to 4 distinct fingers at each time. It was a huge, there's no way I would have been able to do that.
Having jump and dash on the back paddles in Eternal, it's the only way you're going to be able to do the platforming and be able to do the camera moves as a console player without claw gripping and hating yourself.
Yeah. And this era of those games are definitely much more console. It's weird how they have they kind of moved more in the console direction.
You're going to piss off the Doom fans.
I mean, they're obviously still on PC, and they definitely still have a large player base, but it's not outrageous to say that those games are definitely marketed to a console user base. Because again, it's like at that point in time, there had been such a large gap between releases, and PC gaming in the 2016 era was not at the same rate it is now. It's not in the same place it is now.
Can you imagine it gets ported to the Switch 2 and you can use dual mouse controls?
My God, sounds awful.
The last note I had here, and I was asking my dad about this, talked to him about this last night just to like try to refresh my memory on our experiences playing the games, that when the first Doom came out, there were multiplayer was a thing on those games, and
it was like the predecessor to Quake.
And within its first day, university networks began banning Doom, not because of content or anything, but it's because
it was taking too much bandwidth.
It was crashing their systems.
Hell yeah.
It's funny because Doom 2016 and Eternal both go multiplayer-ish forward, and they don't hold up the modern standards.
And I was reading a preview for Doom: The Dark Ages.
No multiplayer.
It was like, yeah, it was like the cover issue. It was the cover of the 2 issues ago of Edge magazine, so it's the full spread, and they were talking about how they have completely abandoned multiplayer, that they had data to back up that basically nobody was
couldn't have fucking done that 9 years ago to make it so the Platinum didn't have a multiplayer requirement for a game that has a dead multiplayer scene.
It seems like they could easily patch that out.
Yeah, it'd be really cool if they did. Pisses me off that I'm sitting there with 3 trophies that I cannot physically get.
That's so good.
Because I sat in multiplayer lobbies for 2 hours. I saw one other person's name pop up.
That's brutal.
And you need a minimum of 4 people to have a match.
It's like those really depressing nostalgia, like TikTok channels or whatever, that are just like my life living on house arrest, being one of the only Modern Warfare 3 players or whatever on Xbox 360. There's this one guy who does that, and it's really it's definitely all bait and staged, but it's really depressing. Like, I got evicted. I now live in a storage unit. Let's not forget that I was pretending to be under house arrest with an ankle monitor 2 posts ago. Well, the one thing about it that really pisses me off is that like the mini Oreos, the bags of like the little mini Oreo snacks. He'll open one of those bags and eat it like cereal. He'll pour milk into the bag and eat it like cereal. Eat a bag of cookies like cereal.
Okay, first.
Wow.
They did have an Oreo cereal.
Yes.
I know they did, yeah.
They still do. Wait, they still do. It's delicious. It's called Oreos. Fucking goat cereal. Don't. Yeah.
Okay, first, I'm over 30 now, and the idea of that type of a cereal just gave me like 7 layers of diabetes.
Yeah. My foot just fell off.
Every time I go to the grocery store, because I walk up and down every aisle regardless of what I'm purchasing, and I walk through the cereal aisle.
Dangerous.
I stop and look, and I'm like, I could do it. And the Reese's Puffs just like start to gravitate towards my hand.
Always a solid choice.
And then I read the ingredient, like the nutritional facts, and just have to be like, nope, that will kill me.
Chex it is.
What walks over to the non-Honey Nut Cheerios?
Yeah, regular Cheerios it is. If you want like a good Cheerios that's not like as bad as the other ones, do the multigrain. Cheerios. No, do like the multigrain Cheerios. They taste almost exactly the same as Honey Nut, but like nowhere near as sugary. But they taste.
You get frosted Cheerios. We've gone fully off the rails.
Yes, we have. But it's like, those nostalgia channels piss me the fuck off. So now we can, I guess, fully get into, this kind of modern era of Doom games. So I only played 2016. I was playing around with scheduling and maybe going to try to play Eternal. But again, after playing and beating 2016, I was just, and then when Matt started playing and was just like listing off all these things that Eternal had done, I'm like, that would just be a bad time for me. And it's like, it's not considerably longer than 16. It's maybe like
extremely disagree. It's the exact same number of missions, but the missions are easily double the length.
No, I know it's longer, but it's not like, I don't think it's fully as long, because particularly for me as a player who's not playing completionist, for you who's trying to find everything and do everything, yes, and like complete every combat challenge, yes. For me, I'm not speed running, but like I'm just going as I'm just letting it take me.
Ben's speed running, he's doing the backwards jumping, looking down text so that textures don't load in, so you move 7% quicker.
You will never catch me creating a new sexual archetype in the marketplace of ideas with my speed running. You'll never see it happen.
To beat the UAC in 2016 on Ultra Nightmare, the tech is you beat the first encounter, you go to the next room, you jump up on a fork truck, and then you basically just jump and clip through a bunch of geometry for 10 minutes, and then it brings you to the end of the level, and you just drop into the end level loading area.
You do that?
Yep.
Hilarious.
It worked in 2016. It still works in 2025.
To get the trophy, you just you're like, no, I'm not dealing with this.
Yeah, dude, because Ultra Nightmare, you get jack shit for health for glory killing. You get like 3 health per glory kill. They do like 70 damage per hit, so you're getting fucking dropped constantly. I ain't fucking dealing with that shit.
Not a real gamer. Not a real gamer.
No, you could actually say that real gamers are the ones who are exploiting the game's
yeah.
dog shit code.
Yeah. But yeah, 2016, like, it was fine. Again, I had these, like, 2 competing opinions. It was just like, this is a extremely technically competent game in terms of design, mechanics, atmosphere, gunplay. My only quibble in terms of the gameplay bit was its movement. Was that several of the bosses felt like they were designed like you were supposed to have a dash function that didn't exist. They're doable without them.
Yeah.
But it's just they felt like they were designed with that in mind.
It's actually one of the biggest homages to gaming was that the bosses were just a one-on-one dude in a circular arena with no platforming that you just shoot till he's dead.
Yeah. And so, like, that was, like, my one, like, kind of complaint in terms of its design. But I just kept coming back to, like, I am not having fun.
But I must rip and tear.
This is just, like, the vibe. This is just not the vibe that I'm not a shooter gamer to begin with in most contexts. There are exceptions, but it's just like there was just nothing that was pulling me back. It was, if it wasn't for the podcast, I don't even know that I would have even tried to play it. Even though some bits of Doom the Dark Ages make me a little bit interested, and so I would have maybe gone to try these to see if I would like it, and I'm fairly certain that I will not be buying Doom the Dark Ages because of my feelings here. But it's just like, and I play plenty of darker games, and I don't need to have everything.
Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
Yeah, I don't need to be everything, sunshine and rainbows. But like, it was just a dour playing experience that to me, like, it was like, thank God it was only 8 hours, and like I beat it over the course of like 3 days or whatever. But like, to me, it was just like every time I had to sit back down to continue playing, it was a chore. Not in this is a slog to get through, I'm fighting against mechanics. It was purely like tone and atmosphere that was just like, this is not a good time for me. So like I was just very much against trying to play Eternal. And then Matt's just like listing off all these things. While the rest of you start talking about your times playing these games, I'm gonna go back and look to see what all Matt's descriptors were.
All right. I want to like these games more than I do. And it's definitely because the technical polish is there. I find it fun and engaging, and I enjoy myself, but I hit my limit at about 25 minutes. It's just like beyond there, I just start to...
Which is why 2016 is peak, because that's how long the missions are.
Yeah. No, I think you're onto something with that, because it's just this type of game, they did a good job of modernizing what this was when it came out in the 90s.
They brought boomer shooters to the modern era.
Right. And that's great. It's just not something I personally want to spend hour and a half play session in. It's something I want to pick up, do some ripping and tearing for 25, 35 minutes, and then put it down for maybe a week or two.
That's
pretty
much
again.
how I played Doom 2016.
And that's why Classic Doom was great, because like you just it is devoid of pretty much all context. So you can just kind of just jump in, do a level, and it's fun, and then you put it away. Which is why Classic Doom is forever installed on my PC. As much as I do not like playing shooter games, it's forever installed for that reason. Maybe the urge will come across one day to play a level here and there. In order to keep the tradition alive, when my nephew was like 4 or something, I sat him down and we played a level of Doom.
We played Doom 2016.
No, we did not. No, classic Doom. And he had a blast. Again, it's not scary. It's not dark. It's nothing.
You put Doom 2016 on. By the time it was done, he was looking up. His first words were "rip and tear."
So it's. I'm with you there. I'm definitely with you there.
That's kind of how I feel on this broader scale. I think having played both Doom, and I did not beat Doom Eternal. I played 3 or 4 hours of it. I think Doom Eternal is an improvement on the combat.
Yeah, the gameplay is undoubtedly better.
so much better. It is a more fun experience, but everything else is definitely worse, without a doubt. In its atmosphere, it's worse. The story, oh my God. I ended up reading a summary of the rest of the plot of that game, and I literally didn't know what it was. Just words.
Yeah,
Goes
man,
to hell.
you're
There's
killing,
a demon.
You're killing 3 hell priests. You're then killing Khan Maker,
Yep.
who's a person who exists.
Yep.
And then you're fighting the Icon of Sin, who's wearing mech armor.
Yeah, it's just like they jump the shark way too far with the plot. The plot of Doom 2016, you know, not that that's fantastic.
That's not bringing home any awards,
right? But it's at least it's better.
It reminded me so much of the Doom movie.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, I had the same thoughts playing it. It's like that. It's very clearly
a bunch of scientists meddling with shit they shouldn't.
I couldn't find myself to realize why I should care about, was it Dr. Olivia Pierce, or why Robot Doctor is so pissed that I'm doing what needs to be done type of shit. He's like, I need you to secure the facility, but I'm pissed that you destroyed the energy system
dude, because Argent Energy was the future.
But there is this disconnect of like, you need to stop the demons from entering, but not stopping the thing that is allowing the demons from entering.
He was telling you to shut the portal off, not permanently disable the portal.
Yeah. You can't shut down the cash flow too. You just have to stop the demons.
But I was also like,
admittedly,
how did this robot man get his doctorate?
Admittedly speaking, from an engineering
he was once a man.
Yeah. From an engineering perspective, if you told humanity they had an energy source that could provide that much capability, I can see the conflict there of like, we could use this. This could save our planet and everything. Like,
think there'd be a conflict? I think they would have sent someone to Mars already.
It's like,
they'd be launching people.
We might have had to enter a contract with the Dark Lord of Hell himself. But, like, it's fine. Again, the Crucible, one charge of the Crucible sword powers Earth for 8 months.
Matt, I'm scrolling through our group chat here. Explain the unholy rigmarole you had to go through to get Doom Eternal to play.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
So I have...
Even play.
I have Doom Eternal on PS4 because I bought it in 2020 to get the Steelbook, which is objectively a sick Steelbook. Only reason. I put the PS4 disc in. I'm immediately prompted because, you know, PlayStation has updated to the point now where they're like, do you want to download the PS4 copy or the PS5 copy? I was like, give me the PS5 copy because PS5. Thank you for not downloading the PS4 copy and making me update. Cool. Get it downloaded. Go into the game. I click on campaign. It brings me to the store and says, you can't play the campaign. You need to download the campaign. I was like, what the fuck do you mean I need to download the campaign? I have the disc in.
It was like, what did you just download is the question. It was the question, what did you actually download? Just the launcher?
So then I went
through. Just the store? Just the cash store? That's all that was on the disc?
So I then went through and was like, maybe to initially launch the campaign, I need to have the PS4 copy downloaded. So I downloaded the PS4 copy off, okay, now I've got both copies on my open up the game on PS5, hit the campaign. Brings me right to the store. Says you need to download the campaign before you can play the campaign. Like, what the fuck do you mean I need to download the campaign? I've got the game twice now. Okay, so I then go to the PS4, the PlayStation Store page, click the little 3 dots icon, which takes you to all the shit you can download for the game. And there's like PS4 copy, PS5 copy, year 1 DLC bundle, the 2 DLCs independently, and then there's campaign. A 1.5 megabyte download.
I'm sorry, what? What?
A 1.5 megabyte download for the campaign, which took legitimately no time, didn't even give me a download screen, to then allow me to launch the campaign. I could launch the DLC without the campaign. I could launch the multiplayer without the campaign. But I could not launch the campaign until I physically clicked onto the store page and said, give me the campaign, please.
Which is what people buy these games for. Like, again, they even have the data to back it up. As I said, that nobody plays this for the multiplayer. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they did that?
Can't answer the question. I don't know. I don't know if that's how it was at launch or if this is just a resultant of how many copies and types there are now with DLC.
You just had to download a 1.5 megabyte thing. It was just some access thing, just saying you had the game.
Yeah, essentially.
Hilarious. It's so weird. Definitely some sort of byproduct of like you have the PS4 version, but are playing the PS5 version.
I was getting so mad, I was about to uninstall it and download it from PS Plus.
That's how I played 2016.
Yeah, that's what I did.
I played it from PS Plus.
But my experience with Doom Eternal, like you were saying, Andrew, gameplay experience is a clear improvement over 2016. They give you more to do. They give there's a much more fair combat system going on between blood punches and flame belches and grenades and ice grenades. Like, you've got a lot more in your toolkit to work with. But like it's so much more arcade feeling, with like floating 1-ups floating around the level, and like weapons aren't like on a body that you're like pulling them off of to, get that cool animation, like charging the weapon up for the first time. They're just floating, glowing in space.
That's like what it's like in the original game.
Yeah, which is why I say I fall on the wrong side of the spectrum on the Doom fan base when you check online on the opinions, because if you go to the Doom subreddit and you look at how people react, it is pretty much guaranteed that there'll be a post and the top comment will be like, "Oh boy, another post about why 2016 is better than Eternal," like making fun of the minority opinion popping up, because objectively, Eternal is the better boomer shooter.
And the community likes Eternal better?
Yes.
But there was
some controversy
and
DLC
complaints.
launches.
Okay. Explain the DLC thing. I don't.
Okay. So there are 2 DLCs for Doom Eternal: Ancient Gods Part 1, Ancient Gods Part 2. Go back to the microcosm. These launched during COVID. So development was shunted and given a much more difficult point going forward. The Ancient Gods Part 1 released, and it was beloved by the core fan base because it was hard and brutal from the beginning. You jump right in. There's no tutorial or anything. You just have all your weapons and you go. The first room has like 3 Hell Barons, like all of the shitty enemies that you don't want to see immediately. But it was despised by the casual community, because the casual community at this point has played the game. They've been done with it for months. They pick it back up, and they are just thrown immediately into an arena with all of the worst enemies, with no refresher on the gameplay loop, no, like, oh yeah, I got a blood punch right now, or like, yeah, I should be using my flame belch, or this guy, I need to shoot sticky grenades into his mouth, while this guy, I want to shoot this gun off of his back. You just dropped right in. So the casual community fucking hated the first DLC, while the core community loved it. And then flash forward to the second DLC, Ancient Gods Part 2, and it's a complete 180, where it's become so easy and simplified that the casual community loves it, because you can just jump right in. It's easy. You get a weapon called the Sentinel Hammer, which just like trivializes the gameplay loop, because it recharges with 2 glory kills and like stuns all enemies, drops a shitload of armor, health, and ammo. Like, it's an extremely overpowered weapon. And the core community fucking despises the second DLC for its simplicity, for its lack of variety in the arena development, the final boss being horribly simple, despite him having like 8 health bars. It's literally just wandering around in a circle, waiting for him to flash green and then stunning him, and then waiting again for him to flash green, do it over and over again, with no like variety to the gameplay loop. And like, you should go watch footage of that fight. It is horribly boring.
Which is the fight where there's like a big guy in the sky, and you gotta launch yourself up and shoot a particular.
That's Con Maker. Technically, it could also be Samore Maker, because he's also floating.
I don't remember if I was seeing that people didn't like that.
Con Maker, you have to damage until the shield goes down, and then shotgun grapple up, and then shoot him in the core. Her, I think it's a her.
It's interesting that you bring that up. I actually saw with Doom Dark Ages coming out on my Twitter feed. I happened to have a thread served to me about posing this question of, essentially from some sort of Doom content creator, I assume, and it was just saying generally what you said, that we like Eternals. We like Doom Eternal. It was an improvement, but what do you think Doom 1 did better? And Doom 2016 did better. And I scrolled through the answers, And it was very funny because, yeah, they all had this general idea that they like Eternal better, but then proceeded to say the sound design, the levels, the visuals, all these other things were done better in 2016. And it was very funny to me because I then
it's essentially
played it
all
and
the
was like,
things
I
I
agree.
like about gaming are better in 2016, and then the only things that are better in Eternal are core gameplay and movement.
Yeah,
and even
100%.
then, people bitch and moan endlessly about the Doom Eternal platforming.
I am not a fan of any real first-person platforming, so I can sympathize.
Always.
All right, so kind of putting a bow on it, what do we think about like the overall legacy of the franchise? It has, it is, Andrew described it as like, this pillar of, gaming as a entity, right? I think even more
it's
specifically
clearly one of
for
the most
PC
influential
gaming.
shooters.
But it's like not the first, boomer shooter, but it is like the more influential one.
Yeah. But if you were to say, go up to a bunch of random people on the street and ask them what a boomer shooter is, they're probably going to mention Doom more than they're going to mention Quake, or they're going to mention Wolfenstein, or they're going to...
And I think a large reason of that is because of the controversy surrounding it. I think it's because of its, satanic imagery, the whole Columbine shit of it, which we don't even really get into. Again, we don't subscribe to the violent video games make you violent type of thing.
No, I played Doom 2016 and then immediately went to my local grocery store and ripped a grandma in half with my bare hands. It was clearly a pinky demon.
I saw someone make a post that said like how like particularly this era of Christians should love Doom.
Yeah, because you're killing the demons.
Yeah, you're fighting the demons, but like that you are like this entity on a noble quest to that evil is something concrete, and that it is something to pose yourself against. It is something to be destroyed at all costs, right? That there is a knowable enemy that you have been burdened by the weight of destiny to destroy. This does not glorify.
Yeah, they should be loving the fact that in Doom 2 you're killing the icon of sin.
Yeah. I saw that was an interesting post that I saw not too long ago. But for it being it is such a weird thing for myself. Again, it's foundational in the sense that it's one of my earliest gaming memories, as I've said multiple times now in various places. But it has had zero impact on my tastes in gaming. If anything, again, I have nothing but fond memories of the experience, but I have gone in the complete opposite direction for my gaming taste. I like narrative-focused and heavy games. Like equally frenetic, fast-paced, but also slower-paced and methodical and strategic gameplay. I don't like first-person games as a rule. I don't like, again, shooting to me is the most rudimentary and basic type of gaming. I don't find it challenging or enjoyable in pretty much almost every case. So it's a weird experience where I see it as foundational in terms of where a large part of the market has gone. Obviously, we don't see the kind of, we don't see the Call of Duties, we don't see the mega franchises that have evolved way past what a boomer shooter is, but we don't get it without that germ of this kind of boomer shooter identity. So it's weird. I don't know. Like, it's Andrew, you're probably you enjoy shooter games the most.
Yeah.
Where do you see like the DNA of Doom games in modern games that you play now, whether first or third person or boomer or non-boomer shooters?
I think to me, it's not necessarily Doom, to your point, didn't originate these things entirely on its own. It is after, it does have some earlier iterations that it's adapting based off of like Wolfenstein and some of the others we talked about. But what I think is that it's the one that kind of grabbed that cultural label for the genre. And I think that's because of how it was distributed. I think it's how the public and our politicians reacted to it, wanting to censor this game. I think it's the fact that this had a movie with The Rock in it in the early 2000s. Like, there's just a lot of cultural purchase that Doom had in a way that I don't think Wolfenstein did, for instance. Because for me, you know, while I think if you were to attribute some of these things to a game, I think it probably goes back to Wolfenstein more so than Doom. But I didn't know of Wolfenstein as a property until they re-released it 10 years ago in 2014, 13, 15 timeframe. And I think that's due to the fact that Doom kind of took that headline role as being, you know, the game that was targeted. It had the big movie, had The Rock, you know, it's early in his career, but The Rock still was fairly well-known entity outside of wrestling, just for the public in general. So I think it's a lot of those cultural touch points.
King.
Yeah, he's a Scorpion King. That, you know, really make Doom this kind of important name in gaming. As for like directly its influence, you know, I think you see it in how first person shooters are kind of designed nowadays.
I have a controversial take on this one.
I'm willing to hear it.
Where I think you see the bones of Doom and the boomer shooter era most in the hero shooter genre, because it's an evolution on the arena shooter where Quake got its game startup from.
Yes, I think that's fair. And I just think the general like design of Call of Duties, for instance, like all of those first, like the classic first person shooters, Halo, those games are absolutely, you can see the DNA of Doom in them and how their levels are designed, how the gameplay loop plays.
Front and center in the middle, just pointing out straight.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And they have, you know, they let you move the gun on a horizontal and vertical axis. Big upgrade. So that's kind of where I see it. I think it's more, and this is where, as I kind of said earlier, it surprises me how when you kind of look at Doom as a series, how limited it has been. You know, we're talking, this will be the 7th, right? Yeah, this will be the 7th main game in Doom's IP this year, over 35, just under 35 years of having that be a property, a big property in gaming. It's more about this kind of cultural touchstone and that, like, how it was defined as this big bad game, I think, more than anything else.
I'm fairly certain I've kind of convinced myself that the game is not as big as it is without the controversy. There's no surer way to make something have cultural purchase, as you put it, than to try to censor it, than to try to get people to stop playing it, that people will start playing it out of spite.
100%.
Spite is the American way over anything else. So, you know, that's the American spirit.
I mean, let's just list off the things that they tried to close off back then. I mean, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Yeah, just like the biggest mega franchises ever, like, are directly tied to things that they tried to get rid of. Yeah, I don't have as much of a touchstone in like the genre, so like I can only see like little mechanic things like shield upgrades and yeah, certain things like level design and gun swapping,
100%.
and stuff like that. But again, to me, this is just like, I can recognize it as an important and as a cultural touchstone, but to me, I'm just like, I can take it or leave it. Like, I don't know to say, like, if Doom never existed and we didn't get all the Doom clones and it maybe even like, you know, butterfly effect, you know, we don't have games like Call of Duty, would we be worse off without it? And
I actually think, technically speaking, yes.
What would we lose outside of those games is the real important question.
Because that's where I think if you lose Call of Duty, say that the lack of Doom gets rid of the first-person shooting genre as a touchstone. So you don't get your Halo, you don't get your Call of Duty. I think gaming shrinks astronomically, comparatively. And then, to like continue down that path, if gaming shrinks, game prices have to go up. They can't maintain their $60 price point because their user base is increasing. So our $80 games are coming out much quicker. So, you know, in 2025, we're looking at $130 games in a boutique franchise.
Who's to know that like gaming is even a thing at all at that?
Yeah. No, that's what I was going to say.
Just be Candy Crush.
Yeah, I think just the mass appeal of how these things grew, I think is, you know, maybe its influence on games directly.
If Halo didn't exist, Xbox wouldn't exist.
Right, but yeah, exactly. Like this larger, its importance just to the industry and how it grew is I think something that would be very much long.
Yeah. A sacrifice we all got to make at some point, right? Got to put up with some shit, to get the gold. All right. I think that'll do it for us. We'll see what the editing process looks like with Mike dipping in and out.
Yeah.
I'll say now, and maybe have to put in show notes and stuff, that like there may be some hiccups with this, depending on if his file actually uploaded or not. So there
I
may
don't
be
even
some
know,
bits
outside of when he rejoined
gap.
that second time, if he even really had audio in the recording.
He had maybe a very little bit at the beginning. He did say that there was something that was trying to upload. So we'll see how that may or may not affect the recording. But thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week. Of course,
If we were powered by Argent Energy, he wouldn't have dropped out because his internet would have been fully juiced.
So no, we're off next week. Next week is Mother's Day. Go call your mom. And so we'll be back the week after with adaptation. And tentatively speaking, we're doing original Mortal Kombat. We just kind of talked about that beforehand, where it's going to be a bit of a retouch for us on an old Lost episode, an experimental episode we did before we launched.
It's going to end up being a 2-person episode when Mike's internet shits the bed again.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be ideally be a 3-person show. Basically all month this week. This one's turning into a 3-person. Then Andrew will be off that week, and then Mike the week after. So stay tuned. We will see you. We'll try to put out a YouTube video this week. I don't really have.
Rip and tear your way through to this podcast, folks.
Yeah. Support us on all the social medias,
except for Twitter.
And
if you support us on Twitter, you're supporting Spanish nationals.
Yeah. All right. But we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.